Okay.
Welcome to Keiretsu Forum Presents. My name is Randy Williams, proud member of Keiretsu Forum, also the founder and CEO. We've been taping these great shows, content-rich, wonderful guests for 24 months. I think if you look back at past shows, I think I was articulating that, Keiretsu Forum was 46 locations, 47. Well, I'm happy today that we've just launched Australia and New Zealand, which makes the 53rd location of Keiretsu Forum globally. We're truly a global organization investing in great startups all over the world. We're taping in Silicon Valley. Presently, I have, for the next 30 minutes, Dr. Chris Apfel, who's CEO of Sagemedic. He's also a Keiretsu Forum member, also chair of our Life Science Committee. We're talking today about healthcare innovations, and we're going to go deep because obviously it's very near and dear. As you get older, we care deeply about what we're going to be talking about. We'll get personal on this show. Both of our parents have died because of cancer. So, Chris, why don't we talk about your qualifications, your background, talk a little bit about Sagemedic, but we're going to go really deep in regards to healthcare innovations.
Well, thank you very much, Randy, for having me here on your show. It's my honor as a chair of the Life Science Committee of your Keiretsu Forum and our Keiretsu Forum. This is a community that I joined, as you know, about 5 years ago, and it's been a great experience because of the community that is coming together and is building a team to help one another in doing due diligence on innovative companies that can change the world as we know it as of today.
So before we get into your background, the reason why I started Keiretsu Forum 18 years ago, exactly who's sitting in front of me today. I need smarter, more dedicated, great backgrounds. So more, I would say, smarter people than myself. That's Dr. Chris Apfel. So let's talk about your background, and then we'll talk about Sagemedic, and then we'll get into, obviously, innovations in healthcare.
Sure. And I have been made in Germany over half a century ago, and have gotten my MBA and my PhD in medical sciences, and have been an anesthesiologist and clinician for over 20 years. I've done a lot of clinical research with now over 100 peer-reviewed publications that have been quoted over 10,000 times in the literature. And when one of our big studies that we conducted with over 5,000 patients that we enrolled in less than 3 years was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, I got an offer at the Cleveland Clinic, then was talking to Harvard and then to Stanford, and went to UCSF, the University of California in San Francisco, where I built up the clinical research core. And that's where I've been calling this my home for over a decade now. And my wife and I, we are very fortunate to be here, in particular because of the people that are here in the proximity. In the Silicon Valley, you have the best and the brightest. And that's actually where everybody thrives from the input of everybody else.
Well, Chris, you wear many hats, and your DNA, not only you come from a scientific platform background, but you're also an entrepreneur. So what was your journey that got you to a place of either becoming a member of Keiretsu or even better, obviously starting a great company? And full disclosure, I'm an investor in Sagemedic, and also Keiretsu Capital, which I'm a general partner, has also invested, along with about $1 million worth of capital from our members of Keiretsu Forum.
Yes, and so originally I've perceived myself as an academician and who love to find out outcomes research studies that identify the best treatments for patients. But then a couple of years ago, my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer, as you know, and I was surprised and astonished to learn that even today, when we talk about precision medicine, that the cancer therapy for the majority of patients is a hit or miss experiment. And my father refused the therapy because he has taken care of my mother when she had ovarian cancer. So my father had lung cancer and passed away relatively shortly thereafter. And I realized that it is possible to take a live patient tumor sample, divide it up into hundreds of microtumors, and then test the drugs on those tumors in the lab in order to identify what would work best for you. And that this could make a much bigger difference in patients' outcomes than any new drug that's currently under development.
So historically hit and miss. And And my personal story, early 50s, my parents were in their early 50s, both died of cancer. My father of Hodgkin's and my mother of ovarian. So probably fast forwarding 30, 40 years later, they could be cured right now, given the technology today. But it was hit and miss. I mean, there was so much chemotherapy. He maybe didn't need chemotherapy. But would he survive today? Would my parents survive today on those two diagnoses? So
the chance to survive is now slightly higher, but it has not increased that drastically as it is portrayed in the media. And if we look at the cancer mortality rate that have declined over time, primarily the decline is because we have less lung cancers, because of less smoking, and because we could do a better job on screening for breast and for colorectal cancer. And so in your case, the difference would probably be small until our company gets to market, because then we can make a huge difference to understand which drugs would work, if any. So being sophomoric or making it very simplistic, you're trying to move away from hit and miss. Exactly. And so what is your IP, intellectual property? Where are you going with your company, and what stage are you in now? Yeah, so what we have been able to develop is a reliable method how we can create hundreds of microtumors based on a patient's sample, so that we can then in the dish test which drug is working most effectively on a tumor that's very similar to the patient's original tumor. Once we are doing the clinical trials, and then we are doing a Series A raise at the end of this year to do so, once we are doing the clinical trials and demonstrate that patients have a higher chance of survival, that we can actually double the patient's chance of survival, then this will, of course, take off. Oncologists will be very excited and interested about this, patient advocacy groups. And when we tie this with a health economic model, that we can actually save money for healthcare, so that partly because patients will not be treated with therapies that will not work, then this will be a big breakthrough, and ideally this could become a billion-dollar company. So a unicorn, we love unicorns at Keiretsu Forum. Okay, take us through the compliance, take us through the approval process, take us to a place where you have market acceptance and, more importantly, approvals by FDA or whomever. The market acceptance is actually the key, and the market acceptance requires to have strong clinical trials, not only to show that our assay correlates with the outcome of the patients, but also to show, take it to the next step and show that if oncologists have this information of the test, that their change in behavior and identifying the more effective drug will actually improve patient outcomes, improve survival, improve quality of life, and reduce costs. That requires significant clinical trials, and even though our approach does not formally require FDA approval, we believe it's important to pursue that route. And the reason is you need hard evidence for oncologists to change clinical practice. So you're testing on whom then? So at this point, we get patient tumor samples from the Collaborative Human Tumor Network. Those are shipped overnight. And these are human? These are human patient samples. And we have developed this methodology in order to calibrate the assay, in order to run those clinical trials. This is an important step, that we really work with patient tissue, which is also important beyond patient care and personalizing treatment for drug development. Now, Chris, I think you mentioned it, but I might have forgot, but your MBA also from Wharton. Your That's PhD right. is from? That's in Gießen. It's in medical sciences, basically a biostatistical background. And you must have a couple other degrees. Well, I'm an MD from Germany. And I'm still actually on the faculty at UCSF as an adjunct professor in the Department of Epidemiology and Biostatistics, where I'm teaching clinical trial design. But I left the clinical department because I wanted to pursue Sagemedic. And before doing this and pursuing Sagemedic, I decided to get an MBA from Wharton. And this is actually critically important. While academicians find out interesting information and mechanisms. If you really want to change clinical practice, it needs to be a business, and it needs to be $1 billion business. And it's not only to have a huge multiple for investors, it's also if you want to make an impact to the world, you need to have a big business.
Well, we have over 1,000 fundings at Keiretsu Forum in the last 18 years, and this show was never about info commercials, never to solicit capital. It was to share great content. But one thing I've noticed, and any of the companies became very successful at Keiretsu Forum, they've always had to bring additional HR, human resources. They had to bring, so if they were a physician, MD, they needed to bring a sales and marketing person. They needed to bring other people to complement the team. It sounds like you could be a one-man show with all your expertise. Right now, when we funded you, you had a total of 3 employees. Where are you at right now?
We have 4 employees. Actually, we have started hiring. The next step, what we did is we hired a patent agent, because we have developed in the last couple of years significant intellectual properties that we need to secure very nicely. And it's actually more cost effective to get a patent agent in-house that is working full-time for Sagemedic to make sure that we are well protected when we go big in 3 to 5 years from now.
So here's something for the viewers. We always scoff at when a young company that's not, yet have hundreds of millions of dollars to defend their IP or have a picket fence around there, obviously trademark or their patents. But a small company really can't always, be cost effective in defending their great technology or IP. So how are you saying that you can actually defend it? Or are you? So please answer the question.
Sure. And we are not in the position to defend it right now, but the key is to get the priority dates filed so that when we go commercial and we become commercially successful, that we can defend it. And at that point in time, we will have so much capital and revenue that we will be in a very good position to defend it.
Okay, so we're going to come back to Sagemedic, but let's talk about life science. Let's talk about the healthcare industry as far as someone wearing my hat, which is early stage investing in those opportunities. And as you know, there's a company came to us back then, the valuation is under 20, it's solving, and many other products since then, but it has an inhaler, and it didn't have to go through FDA approval process. Company Svara, S-V-R-A, it's a public company now, and at one time was and is solving wonderful issues with young children with cystic fibrosis through an inhaler of obviously distribution through the lungs. Now it's today it was $312 million valuation. It's nice return for us as angels, but we never know what's next because we think it's very inefficient in the healthcare arena. Where is the next opportunity to invest in the future and why?
The next opportunity is really dealing with major issues. Major issues are in the field of Alzheimer's, and they are in the field of cancer. Those are billion-dollar companies, which is important not only for the economy, but also for the quality of life of people.
Right.
The Alzheimer disease costs our society here in the United States over $200 billion a year. Cancer is about $100 to $150 billion a year. Those are major issues. And now the question is, how do you deal with that and how do you treat with that? In the oncology space, in the cancer space, it is drug development on one side, and there have been great successes with immunotherapies that are beneficial for a certain proportion of patients. Although this is a hype, 90% of the capital goes into immuno-oncology today, even though only 20% of patients can potentially benefit from it. But what is really important is the early diagnosis, so screening for lung cancers, screening for cancers in general. Grail, for example, has raised over $1 billion in investment amounts. So that's a company that is looking at early diagnosis with imaging technologies that can be complemented as well. And in the middle is actually where we are. When patients are diagnosed with cancer, when drugs aren't working, then we can say, this is the best option that you can choose. So the future is continuing with drug development, and understanding new mechanism of action that have less side effects and are more effective with new mechanism of actions, but also look at the screening and efficient screening that have low false positives and low false negative rates. And in the middle is really, if the patients are diagnosed, we have about 1.7 million patients diagnosed every year with cancer, that we get the best treatment to those patients to truly personalize the treatment.
So getting back to your analogies, we have cancer, we have dementia, Alzheimer's over here. Where's the race? Are we 10 years away from solving dementia issues? Are we 15 cancer? Where are we in the life cycle, or you know, through investing and through, obviously, one thing great about Keiretsu Forum members, including my wife and I, we like impact investing. That's why I invest in Sephora. And so we, too, need possibly more companies that are solving these two holy grails. So where are we? Are we 10 or 15 years away from solving these big issues on Alzheimer's and also cancer?
I would reframe it, we are probably 20 years away to get a better handle on it. I wouldn't say to completely solve it.
Right.
One needs to be realistic, because we have decades and decades over and over again promised that we will win the war on cancer. And over again, even though new mechanism of actions have popped up, our society has been disappointed. So I want to be very careful in making those projections. What we do know is we can do a much better job with the drugs we have, which is a reason for the companies that I founded. Now, there are also other companies around there in the cystic fibrosis space. There are that presented a month ago at your Capital Expo. Valiant is one of the examples. And they are targeting a new drug, a new mechanism of actions that is affecting the inflammation of cystic fibrosis patients. And that is a highly promising company, but it's a drug development company, so it's a very high risk. But it's a high risk, high reward, which is actually one of the reasons why it is important also to consider for investors diversification. And that's actually what Keiretsu Capital is actually doing. Keiretsu Capital gives the early stage investor the opportunity to be involved and diversified in a number of different investment opportunities that have already have shown traction and are therefore show a higher chance of success.
Thank you. And Keiretsu Capital's invested in you also, full disclosure. Keiretsu Capital is a platform where we top off our best deal flow that comes to Keiretsu Forum around the world. We're drafting off the members' expertise, time, and also capital and opportunities. So it's topping off with a little bit of capital, anywhere from high as, from a low of 75 up to 250,000. And we do two or three other tranches sometimes in these companies. But we have now close to 200 limited partners, and generally it's designed for our members that don't have time. So they like diversification, but they put a little bit in the funds. But we are topping off technology, but we're also topping off our real estate. We have a real estate fund, and we just closed this last week on a blockchain fund. And so we look forward to supporting your company in the future. So getting back to what the show's about, where are you foreseeing the next 10 years? Interesting investment opportunities. Should we stick with the two analogies you said about obviously cancer and dementia patients, or can we explore even further where we can go as investors?
We have in the Keiretsu community, we have the life sciences, which is about a third of our investments. We have the real estate, which is probably another third of the investment, and then we have also high tech and fintech and other technology-driven companies that have high exit multiple opportunities. And so these are the three areas that I think we should continue to pursue. In the life science space, I mentioned the neuroscience, neurology and neurological diseases, as well as oncology as one area. But there are other things. There are orphan diseases like Savara in the cystic fibrosis space. Or like, I think next month we will have Sensulin presenting that is looking in the diabetes space. So I actually do think that if we think about a cure, that people can live a normal life, I think we are closest in the diabetes field. Yes. And that is a very interesting company that I'm also very, very much interested in investing myself. I had already some preliminary discussions, and so this is what is the value of the Keiretsu Forum, that many angels come together and then have the mind share. And I think this mind share that many individuals, as long as they are independent in their thinking, bring their positions in a, as you say, gracious Shark Tank mindset together. That is actually where value is added at a quick time. And then what you have stressed, and what's really important and one of the strengths of the Keiretsu Forum is the due diligence. The Due Diligence Handbook, written by Michael Gralnick, is an important milestone that we gather 5 to 10 angels come together and divide up the different areas where we want to look at the companies, we want to look at the team, we want to look at the IP, we want to look at the technology, we want to look at the solution, does it work? We want to look at the competitive landscape, and we want to look at the corporate documents. And so by doing this, the other angels benefit from being able to read and review this report in order to make their investment decisions, which gives our other fellow members this huge added value. Well,
we had Keiretsu Forum today in East Bay, and speaking of Gracious Shark Tank, it was speaking of Gracious when the entrepreneur said, I love sharing the due diligence book that's been done by members, and there's no vested interest at Keiretsu. We just produce information and give opinions, but we're not asking anybody for capital. But it's a great knowledge base. We call it Health Club for the Mind, Health Club for the Mind. And so, it can be 150 pages. How many pages is your due diligence book?
It's also over 100 pages, and over 100 pages is also the Due Diligence Handbook for Mission Bio, which is actually doing well, and I'm looking forward. I'm also a proud investor, and I actually have doubled down, so I'm now deeply in there.
Right.
And we expect that in perhaps next year we will have a $100 or $200 million exit.
Excellent. You mentioned two things. One, for the viewers, if you're interested in looking at our Keiretsu Forum due diligence booklet, it is free online. It's free at Apple Bookstore, or you can go to our website. And that's 400 pages of the last 14 years our members have cobbled together. Great content. How to do due diligence. There's a lot of risk and a lot of rewards in angel investing, and I think we have nailed it with this book. And that's free to everyone. Getting back to due diligence books, I want to make sure we have an open and abundant heart at Keiretsu Forum, so we share that with anybody. So we share it with other angel groups. That's very important. So let's talk about quality of life. That's a big one, I think that's really a special topic in the next 5 minutes of the show. So what could we be looking at to make an impact, but also to help people have a better quality of life? We're extending life, which is another topic in itself, to 125. How do we make room for everybody? But let's just take quality of life. What are we looking at investing to really improve people's lives in the next 20 years at Keiretsu Forum?
Yeah, so the quality of life is, when I mentioned Sensoline in this regard, if there is a company that can almost solve our diabetes problem, especially for patients who have type 1 diabetes, which is an autoimmune disease, which often occurs at the age of 10 or 12 years of age, or 15, that if that can be cured, they can lead a normal life. And so that's one part. The other part is, if we talk about cancer therapy, the immuno-oncology, there are some compounds like nivolumab that have been able to show long-term benefits with very low side effects. And those patients had a much better quality of life, basically getting back to normal. And that's an important factor as well. And so we believe that health-related quality of life, there are objective measurements. They're very important to consider for all clinical trials, for all solutions in the healthcare space.
See, I want to insert that because we always talk about impact investing. Yes, we want to make a return, but we care deeply about making impact. But we should weave that into the conversation with Keiretsu Forum members. Let's really focus on quality of life for for our loved ones, for ourselves, for humanity.
Exactly. And you mentioned impact investing, and I do think that while philanthropy is an important aspect, what is really important is to for foundations to realize that they have also the opportunity to invest, to do venture philanthropy, to invest in companies that actually improve patients' care, improve their quality of life, so that when those companies are successful to help the society, it funnels back into their foundation so that they can pursue and continue their mission to help society.
My wife has volunteered over the years in a local church where spouses bring their dementia patients so they can have a day off. Right, the spouses then go shopping. But you know, what can we do as a community too? Because we have 3,000 members of Keiretsu Forum around the world. Yes, we want to be, you know, have quality of life for our loved ones. We want to be an impact investment. What can we do to volunteer to make it a better place on this earth in regards to healthcare arena?
So one of the good things is when a company is presenting at Keiretsu and they indicate their investment interest, they can also indicate whether they want to give a free resource.
Right.
Giving a free resource to a life science company that can make a difference in patient care, that is something that pays it forward.
Yes. Well, we go through life so quickly, so why not? It's very easy. Why not make an impact? So where are we at with Sagemedic? Are we 2 years away, 5 years from exit? And who will be the exit? Will it be an IPO? Will it be a strategic buying you? Meaning, will somebody in that can truly distribute your wonderful product in the marketplace be buying you?
So the exit is probably 3 to 5 years out. And that will be done by either a strategic alliance. Those could be a large corporation that is in the diagnostic space. It could be a strategic alliance with a major healthcare chain. It could be big pharma could be interested because our platform could be very nicely used for drug development and significantly increase the efficacy. And this could be either after 3 years, that would be the earliest. But when we really want to get to the market for patient care, it will rather be in the range of 5 years. And the key is not how long it takes. The key is actually what's the exit multiple.
Absolutely.
And the exit multiple, we think this can be more than a 20x multiple. So it's we would like to exceed Savara's excellent performance.
Well, you've heard it here, and we call Keiretsu Forum Health Club for the Mind, and I'm very blessed to have smarter people around me all the time the last 19 years. And it's been a wonderful show, Chris, and we're rooting for you, and let's make an impact together. I can only make an impact by hopefully resources. I'll check the box and capital, but you're obviously executing on your great company. And also, viewers out there, if you have great companies to present to us, be our guest to come to Keiretsu Forum. We are always looking for the next great opportunity. Thank you so much. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.